Take two. I did a whole video, and I didn't realize when I laid down to do the perimeter view of a bus line that I turned the camera off. So here we go again, and we're just gonna go real quick through it. A lot of people have been asking about wiring, and it's astounding how many bad answers I've heard. DC, DCC, it's the same damn wiring. Just more of it. I have two lines, and I'm building a third line. I'm DCC, so it can all be powered the same from the same bus line. If you have multiple tracks and you want to run multiple trains, one on each track, obviously you would have a DC controller with two knobs and two outputs for bus lines. I look at bus lines, I look at electric like water. So, let me lay back down here. If you have a pipe that's 100 foot long and you have 100 faucets on it, and you turn all the faucets on, that very last faucet, you ain't gonna get no water out of it, pretty much. I look at that as electric also. And that's why I have 3 bus lines for this whole layout. So, there's 4 wires coming out here, but 2 of the wires are for the programming track. Have the wires for the track power coming out of here, wrapping around, to secure them so they don't hang, and they go into here. This I got from Amazon. It's an automotive quality. It's rated up to like 200 amps. So I know this will never be a problem. I'll never be able to max it out on HO. There is 2 of them, obviously. We're only going to be working with this one because I'm having a hard time moving today. Why do I have a wire sticking out there? Oh. Looks like I'm going to have to check that. So, the main feed comes into the first terminal. The second terminal I have coming around and ending right there. The second terminal I have coming around and ending right there. The third one I have coming around and going down that way, going around the end of the layout and coming back and ending in a Kato plug, which then I could plug this wire into, which I have alligator clamps on, and I can get power to track temporarily. I did this for the Rapido Dome car when it was on the track on the Lazy Susan when I was doing the detail video. Obviously, now that I have the turntable and I can do that on the turntable, don't really need this, but I still have it. If you do DCC, obviously you would just double up everything. If you do DC and you have the 2 or the 3 or the 4 tracks, you would just double, triple, or quadruple up on everything I just said. 2 tracks, 2 sets of these. 3 tracks, 3 sets of these, so on and so forth. And you would just do this on each one. Now, the reason I recommend doing it this way is because if I went around this whole layout, Obviously, in this area, which would be the very first feeds, would get the most power. And as I would go around, it's not, it's negligible on a small layout, but on a big layout with hundreds of feeds, you'll see it eventually. By the time I got to the end, I'd have like half, no, not half. Again, the number, I'm just throwing out numbers. I'd have like half the power as I would have here. Because as I take power, I'm using that power on the feeds. That's why I suggest breaking your layout into sections. It's almost like a block system for the old DC setups. So as I come, up on the layout, so the feeds over here are right from the block. The feeds over here would be the last of the second block. Likewise, the feeds up to here would be the last of the first block, and the feeds here would be the first of the second block. So I'm having more equally distributed power. I'm only having to go half layout. By the time I'm over here with lower power, this one compensates. Because it does go both ways. Power does go both ways. But it only goes so far. In a way. So, yep. That's the wiring. Hope this helps. But yeah, you can even see down here. That's a little connection. This, don't mind that. That was a little mistake with the drill. I had to, a saw when I was making the hole for this. I nicked the wire some, so I just spliced a new one in. But, yeah, you just pop your feeds. Pretty much the only feed on here I'm using right now is the turntable. And the parking sidings. The parking sidings are actually before the turntable. The parking sides are connected up on that corner, whereas the turntable is connected over here, and it ends here on this leg of the feed. So, I hope that helps to be able to see it and hear an explanation, because, like I said, some of the stuff I've heard and some of the stuff I've seen, the worst thing you can do is, let me get back under here. The worst type of thing you could do is you bring your power feed out to, say, here, and then take all your feeds and connect them to your power so it's like a spider web. That would probably be the worst thing, because honestly, I can't remember why I was told this years ago in DC. The power doesn't, what's the word I'm looking for? Distribute evenly when you do it like that. So, say you have 3 wires. You're 1, 2, and you're 3, and you twist them all together. The wire that actually is touching the terminal the best is, even though all the wires are touching, a little bit more power goes through that first wire than the other two. At least that's how I was explained to it. Yeah, you like my Jimmy Rig light? Yeah, that's what we do. That's how we light when it goes in front of the camera so you can see the stuff. That's my redneck. So yeah, I mean, even in DCC, or even in DC back in the 90s, I did a bus line. I didn't do a spider web or anything like that, like I've seen. The Kato system with their splitters. Now, I do have a splitter. That's one of the old splitters. The new splitters are just inline with a bunch of connectors. To power track using these, horrible. This is actually for switch control. So you can control two switches like a crossover like this. The two switches together. Oh. Trying to think. Obviously the second wire goes to my programming track. Again, this is stuff you don't really see. This is the power, or the control. This is rednecked powering these. This is actually coming out later today. In fact, I might throw that out because it's broken anyway. It only goes one direction, and the only thing that works is the variable DC. The fixed side doesn't work. The turntable power supply, I'm going to split between the switches and the turntable motor. This doesn't take enough. It only takes power when I flip the switch for a split second to flip them. It's not like the Atlas ones where you can hold it and it would still be activating. So that shouldn't be a problem. I think that's it. If you have any more questions, throw a comment down, ask it. If I think it's too hard to explain in a good way, I'll do a video of it. For me, it's easier to vocalize something than to try to do instructions in text. For the sole fact that I can use visual aids to help explain it. So, yeah, that's it. Have fun, y'all.